Let's talk about planting fall food plots. It's early August and I have 3 fields that I need to increase the pH in. So we're going to add approximately 3 tons to the acre of lime, which according to the soil test should yield a pH of approximately 6.8, which is what I want. So you can see here, we're loading up the cart, getting ready to amend the fields. 2 of the fields I'm addressing are clover fields planted in either red clover or Dorana clover. But the main field I want to rehab is the 15-acre field that you see right here now, that historically has been in sunflowers. And frankly, it's just worn out. I never had fertilizer and it needs some amping up. So I planted it this summer in cowpeas, sun hemp, soybeans, buckwheat, and sorghum Sudan grass. And then just before this video was taken, I mowed it all down. So now, I'm adding the lime, but I won't disc the lime in like many people do because I no longer disc. Rather, I'll wait till adequate moisture shows up, late September, early October, and then I'm going to drill Elbon rye, wheat, radishes, and turnips into it, and then next summer this will be an annual legume field. This is just the first step in preparing for the fall planting season. Let's follow along the process. So, you got a protein feeder right here. It's next to a 13, 14 acre field. It's planted in summer legumes, cowpeas, soybeans. And I got about a 4-acre field right here that we're putting some lime on that will be in clover and small grains, which last most of the year. You got a pond down there. You can't quite see it. It's behind that tree. But you got a pond down there for a water source. What's not to like about all of this? I had a little trouble with the lime spreader. It's not, yep, it's not flowing just the way we want because it's so darn humid. But you add it all up here. You add a field where the pH is right. You add complementary planting schemes. You have a protein feeder. Pretty powerful stuff. That is how you grow big bucks. That and of course letting them get old enough. It's Monday, September 9th, and it's time to transition the food plots, the summer food plots, over to fall food plots. We have here the summer rotation that I used this year. I'll vary a little bit each year, but in this particular field, in this year, I used sun hemp. I have sorghum Sudan grass. I have some pearl millet. You can see a little pearl millet right here, some of it going to seed. I have cowpeas, soybeans, buckwheat, sunflowers. I even threw a little pole beans in here, and in fact, I didn't tell anybody, but I put a couple of rows of corn over in the middle of this field. That was for my wife and I. Field's done very well. The buckwheat came up first. It jumped up pretty high and before everything else got growing, and the deer jumped right on it. I was very pleased to see that. Then the soybeans came up. Of course, they don't get much higher than knee-high, and the deer were eating those, and that gave everything else a chance. The sun hemp's a little slower to get going, but once it gets going, I don't know if you can see here, but there's some sun hemp here that's, I don't know, some of it's 9, 10 feet tall. The cowpeas have grown up to the top of it now. The sunflowers have just been engulfed in it all. So it's been a great food plot. It's done exactly what I wanted for the summer. The deer were in it all summer long, up until right now. In fact, I think when we start crimping this, we'll probably be running some deer out. You know, I started all this food plot mixture with all these different cultivars in here with a passion for growing deer. Come to find out over time, now I think my passion is evolved, or devolved, depending on how you look at it, into growing worms. Yeah, my interest now is so much in how to improve the soil, the microbiology of the soil, and create habitat for worms, that so much of the logic that I use behind these plantings is geared around how to improve the soil and improve the microbiology and, as I said, the worms in there. Now the good news is that what's good for the worms is also good for the deer, because just about everything in here, with the exception of the pearl millet and the sorghum Sudan grass, is good for the deer. Of course, the Sudan grass and the pearl millet feed other things. Certainly the birds have been piling in here eating the pearl millet. They've been eating it right off of the heads here. So it's been a very, very successful summer food plot. The next step that we'll take is to come in with a roller crimper now, and we'll roller crimp that, and we'll go take a look at that here shortly. So we'll roller crimp it, knock it down, and then we'll come in with the no-till drill right into this with a fall mixture of Elba rye, probably throw some wheat in, some radishes, and some turnips. Can't say too much about the radishes, they're fabulous. It all does the same thing. It becomes very cyclical, where the fall food plots will be creating thatch for the summer food plots. The summer food plots, you can imagine the thatch that all this is going to make. It'll be very thick, and then I'll drill right into that. And the summer food plots with the nitrogen and the organic matter will feed the fall food plots, and on we go. Been very successful. You can see here some of the sun hemp is starting to bloom. I've never had it go to seed, but it makes a very nice bloom, and that's just another sign that it's time to start terminating all this and knocking it down. So early September here in the deep South Louisiana, I don't worry about getting the food plots in any earlier than mid-September. A variety of reasons why. It's going to be very hot this week. It's probably going to be high 90s most of the week, no rain, hadn't rained for the last couple of weeks. It's starting to get very hot and dusty, so not in a big hurry to plant. The other thing is, should I get things to come up right now, there's always the risk of armyworm, so waiting a couple of weeks will only be a good thing to let the weather start to appear to be a little cooler and maybe even get some moisture. That said, with this heavy thatch on the ground, I'm not as worried about moisture, because it will hold the moisture, and I think there'll be ample moisture to get the fall crops up. So let's go take a look now at some roller crimping and see what it looks like. Before we get into roller crimping, I just got to show you one more thing. With these fields, you know, I'll tell you what I plant, and the truth of the matter is I'm always throwing a little extra seed of something in just to see how it does. I very much like the idea that I learned from a lot of the guys I look at on YouTube of using multiple different kinds of seeds, 6, 7 different species in the field. So I'll see a bag of something at the local feed store and grab 10, 15, 20, 30 pounds of it and throw it in the field in the hopper just to see how it does. Kind of curious. So this is an 18-acre field, and I got about 30 pounds of okra. I was at the feed store and there was a sack of okra, so I grabbed it, and here you have it. There's okra all through the field, so you know, it's done quite well. I'm pretty pleased with it, and there's a surprising thing. Here's some big plants right here. Now again, this is an 18-acre field, so there's no way the deer can eat everything that's in here. And it's the same mixture that I was just showing you with the addition of the okra. But one more thing I want to show you. Let's take a look around at another spot in the field where the deer come in. I learn something new every day about deer. Come to find out, they like okra. All through the field I'm finding grazing pressure like this, and you can see here they're eating the leaves off, all gone right here. And look at this. Here's 3 plants right together. They've eaten every leaf off of it. I can't tell if they're eating the pods or not, because the pods aren't there. They're sure eating the leaves. So, come to find out, not only is okra a good cover crop, summer cover crop, the deer like it too. How neat. And it's just one more root system in the soil, one more set of leaves in the soil. And while we're out here, let's take a look at this. Sun hemp. You can see here that they eat sun hemp too, and I've known that already. I've had good luck growing sun hemp, but nip the top off, and if you were to walk through this field, you'd find grazing pressure, not only the nip tops, but the leaves as well. Good stuff. Here we are roller crimping. Like I talked about in the introductory video, this is the first step to terminating the summer food plots. You can see that the sun hemp got pretty darn thick here. So he'll come around with the tractor. He will crimp to the exact same pattern that we're going to follow up with and drill. We use a counterclockwise rotation. I don't know that that's really that important. You can do it counterclockwise or clockwise. They're both going to be the same. But the key is that whichever way you go, we'll come right back with the drill and drill with the exact same pattern that we crimped with. The no-till drill that we have is the exact same width as the crimper there, so the two work together very well. You can see that it creates quite a thick thatch, this summer crop. I'll pull it down here and we'll take a quick look at it. And I'll show you what we got and why we have to go and follow with the drill in the exact same pattern that we crimp with. Let's take a look at what we've got. So here's the sun hemp right here. The sun hemp, the sorghum Sudan grass, the buckwheat's long since gone, the sunflowers all embedded in here, and there are some native grasses that popped up as well. You can see it's thick. It could be, what, 4 to 6 inches thick here. There's also a tremendous base of seed up underneath there. So the drill will have to come on the exact same pattern as we crimped with. Otherwise, it would be very hard to cut through all this. You can see that the sun hemp it's cut up now. It was, what, it's got to be 8-9 feet tall. It'll be terminated. Some of the native grasses will probably not be killed, so they'll sprout up, as well as some weeds. We'll follow up about a week after crimping this field and come back and spray it with glyphosate. I only have to spray glyphosate on these fields once a year, and that is at the end of the summer rotation. Unfortunately, I'd love to get away from spraying altogether, but here in the south, weeds and grasses are so vigorous that even with this thick canopy of sun hemp like you see here, the grasses and weeds will be up underneath it. So frequently I can get away with not spraying in the springtime. The Elbon rye and the fall crops that I plant are thick enough, and with the cool weather the weeds aren't quite as vigorous, the grasses are dormant. But the summer crops, I've not yet found a way to get around it. I still have to go and spray them. So I get in here one time and spray here mid-September before I do the fall cultivars. The good news is that all of the stuff that the deer eat will be dead, so for the most part I'm not spraying anything that the deer eat. That means something to me. Is it important? I don't know, but I like it, and I think that it is valuable to grow crops that aren't drenched in poisons for the deer to eat. That's just one of my things. I think it's just one of those little things that adds up. It's a lot of little detail that yields the results that we get here. So now the crimper has finished its job, and the drill will come back as soon as we finish crimping all the fields. We'll load up the no-till drill and go take a look and see what that does. That'll be the fall rotation. Follow me on it. It's been a great year so far. It's September the 19th. Most of August and all of September have been very, very dry, but we had loggers in, so they were here for, I don't know, 4 or 5 weeks, and it was completely dry the whole time they were working. So for probably the first time ever, we had no rain delays while they did a thinning on about 100 acres. So they just pulled out the other day, and now we're getting a little moisture from the tropical disturbance that's down by Houston. I feel so sorry for those folks. They've been getting, I saw where they got 36 inches in parts of Texas. That's terrible, but for us we did get a little bit of rain out of it, so even though it was dry August and September, we got some moisture on the soil now, and at the same time the seeds showed up. One of our favorite times of the year here on the farm is fall planting. So let's take a look at what all we have. We've got wheat. Got a couple of pallet loads of wheat. We have some Elbon rye. For the most part, in a lot of the fields, we'll be planting a mixture of 50 pounds to the acre of rye, 50 pounds to the acre of wheat. In the clover fields, we'll only be planting just 50 pounds to the acre of wheat. So we're either mixing it or just planting the wheat in the clover fields. There's one field that I'm trying to rehab, and I'm going to be going 100 pounds to the acre of Elbon rye in it just to create a little more thatch, try to amp up the organic matter. And then we have the other clovers and such here. Let's take a look at what all we have. I'm going to plant a little more balanza fixation again this year. I got 50 pounds of that. All the clover fields will get a little more chicory. That's chicory right here. I usually plant about 2 pounds to the acre of chicory in a clover field. And those two work together very well. Some red ace, one of my favorite clovers right there, red ace, very popular. Does very well here on the farm. Some crimson clover, got a couple of fields I'm putting some crimson in. It's a fabulous reseeding annual. Generally it's played out by sometime in May, and I'll come behind it and plant something else. Over here you can see, let's see what we have here. Louisiana S1, a Ladino, white clover. Going to be putting that in some of the clover fields. A lot of the clover fields still have clover in them, but I'll go ahead and amp up, throw a little more clover in there just to keep them spruced up, keep them going. Radishes. I plant a lot of radishes. In almost all of the fields that I'm planting, either the fields that I plant in summer annuals and then rotate them to fall cover crops, as well as the clover fields, I'll be planting 3 pounds to the acre of radishes. Deer love it, fabulous for the soil, does really well. Here you can see some Durana clover, one of my favorite clovers. It's expensive, but we have several fields that we've established and strictly Durana clover. So I've got a 5-acre field that I'm going to go in, and I'll plant the wheat, radishes, and turnips, but I'll also be putting the Durana clover in it and establishing it in a Durana clover field. Should last for a few years. Here you can see the purple top turnips. So those are the seeds for this year. It's an exciting time of the year. Let's go over to the drill and get it loaded up for fall planting. So we're setting the drill up for the clover fields where we'll be putting 50 pounds to the acre of wheat. So we'll be on drive type 3, and the setting will actually be on 21. According to the book, 20 is 48 pounds to the acre, so there you can see the setting. And we'll go do a small field first, 3.3 acres, and then test that, and if it works, we'll expand it out. Now, what we'll also be doing is mixing the radishes in with the wheat. So the radishes and the wheat will be in the big box, and the clovers, of course, will all be in the small box. Let's take a look. So the wheat goes into the big box. And then we'll just pour the radishes in on top of it, and he'll take a shovel and kind of mix that in a little bit. And then we'll do, so we did a bag of wheat, we'll do a little bit of the radishes, a bag of wheat, a little bit of the radishes, stir it up a little bit. Is it as good as a farmer would do it? Maybe not, but it's good enough for a food plot. That's the red clover, so we're going to go ahead and inoculate it. I've got red clover in the field, and according to what I've read, you probably don't have to inoculate it, but inoculant's cheap, and without argument, it certainly enhances the growth, makes things grow better. So a little sugar water to get a sticking agent there. So now we've inoculated the red clover. We're going to add the chicory and the turnips into that mix. Pour it all into the small seed box. So now we're loading up the small seed box where we have purple top turnips, chicory, ace, red ace, and Louisiana S1 Ladino. So that all goes in the small seed box. We have that set at 52. So in the drill right now, what we have is 50 pounds to the acre of wheat, 3 pounds to the acre of daikon radishes, 1 pound to the acre of purple top turnips, 2 pounds to the acre of chicory, 7 pounds to the acre of red ace clover, and 5 pounds to the acre of ladino. Now we're putting this into a 3.3 acre field, and this field already has red clover and some chicory in it, but it spruced the whole thing up and should improve it somewhat. It's been planted several years ago, so it's time to kind of rejiggerate it a little bit. So with that in mind now, we get that in there, we fire up the tractor and head to the field. Let's go plant a fall food plot. How exciting. Yeah, and there is a log truck loaded down with logs. That certainly helps pay for all this fun. And if things aren't going well enough already, the tractor just drove off, and as I look off to the east, there's rain clouds coming. Sometimes things just work great. We're going to keep planting, rain or shine.